What is going on, IF Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about 3 more things that you should never do when intermittent fasting. Last year I did 5 things you should never do when intermittent fasting, and those were comprised of a lot of questions and a lot of statements that came from many of my viewers. But as last year has gone by and we've started this year, I'm still seeing questions and statements coming in, and I wanted to grab 3 that I see very frequently to make sure that you guys are doing intermittent fasting in the best way possible to get the best results. So I'm gonna go ahead and break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Okay guys, quickly before we start, this video is brought to you by yours truly, Fledge Fitness and the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. If you haven't gotten yours yet, what are you waiting for? With the ergonomic design, the aluminum handle, and the swivel design for maximum speed, you can't go wrong with the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. Only $16.50. You can click the link on the top right hand corner or the link down in the description, and it'll take you right there. And of course, as always guys, thank you for your support. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Okay, this is simply a continuation of my previous video from last year talking about 5 things that you should never do. These are 3 more things you should never do when intermittent fasting. Now, the first one is restricting yourself to a single regimen. Now, I know a lot of people like to basically crystallize the intermittent fasting regimen that they do, immortalize it, idolize it. They say to themselves, well, I'm an alternate day fasting person, or I'm a warrior diet person, or I'm an OMAD person, or I'm this or that, a 5-2. But the issue is when you immortalize or idolize a specific regimen is that you don't give yourself the ability to be flexible within the regimen itself, which could create better adherence in the long run. You want to have that flexibility. You want to have the doors open. Don't close the doors on other protocols because you fell in love with one specific protocol. I, for example, did not do that. When I was doing the warrior diet, I did it for a long time, but I decided to also add eating 1 meal a day. 1 meal a day and the warrior diet interchangeably throughout the week. That's the whole premise of the WarMad diet that I created. Basically fusing 2 regimens that I interchange every once in a while. I do the 20 hours of fasting, or I do 23 hours of fasting. But the freedom of being able to switch between those 2 on any given day is very relaxing and very freeing. I know that I'm not stuck with this one regimen. I can move around. I have some flexibility, and it's given me the ability to stick to this protocol for as long as I have. And I've been doing intermittent fasting for over 7 years. So if you want to do the warrior diet, which is 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating throughout the week, Monday through Friday, but then on the weekend you want to do 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, you can go ahead and do that. Don't feel that you have to be part of a team, so to speak, within the protocols of intermittent fasting. You can mix and match. You can do 1 meal a day on Monday, 16-8 on Tuesday, warrior diet on Wednesday, and so on and so forth. You can do whatever you feel works with your schedule, your life schedule, which is important, and what makes it easier for you to do just in general. I can tell that the intermittent fasting community has built coalitions behind literally all these different protocols. It's like a subcategory within the umbrella of intermittent fasting where you're very passionate about that specific protocol. That's great. If it has worked for you, keep it, but understand that you can change it or do a different protocol. As long as you are giving yourself time to fast throughout the day, you'll be fine. Adherence is key. Now let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Only eating your meals at night. Now, this doesn't mean that eating your meals at night is something you should never do. The thought process of thinking that you cannot eat in the morning because that's breakfast, and intermittent fasting people 100% hate breakfast. So I'm not eating breakfast at any capacity, even if it means eating breakfast and then fasting for the rest of the day. Essentially, I did intermittent fasting, but I just hate breakfast so much. And not breakfast as in breaking a fast, breakfast as in the context of eating something in the morning when you wake up or just a few minutes after you wake up. Please do not think that breakfast in the morning specifically is a bad thing. Yes, if you eat breakfast and lunch and dinner, you're never letting yourself get into that post-absorptive range where you're in that fasted state. Yes, but If you decide to eat in the morning and not at night and then fast for the rest of the day, you are still utilizing many hours of intermittent fasting. You're just choosing to eat your food in the morning. It's totally up to you. And in fact, there have been many studies when eating in the morning has benefits to it that you might not see when you eat at night. It's called early time restricted feeding, and it works with the circadian rhythm when your metabolism is at its highest. Normally that's in the morning. So there are studies that show that there are benefits to eating in the morning, but there are also studies that show that there are benefits to eating at night. The point that I'm trying to make is, don't think that there's a taboo with breakfast. As long as you're implementing intermittent fasting, you're still doing what you need to do. Don't think that you must eat at night, that you have to eat at night, since this has been made somewhat of the premise of intermittent fasting throughout the years. It's like, wait till eat later in the day. You don't have to if you don't want to. Both can be beneficial. Now let's go ahead and move on to the final one, number 3, changing your feeding times. Now, I know this might be confusing because I just said don't worry about changing your regimens for the first one. And then you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, but the feeding time and the regimen, this is confusing me. Is it different? Is it not different? Do I change my protocols? Do I not? Yes. You should be open to changing your protocols with intermittent fasting, but changing your feeding times is actually a little bit different. The reason that you don't want to constantly shift your feeding time is that you are creating a biological rhythm when you're doing intermittent fasting. That is the reason why intermittent fasting is super difficult when you first start doing it. The reason it's super difficult, or not super difficult, for some it might not be as difficult than it is for others, but it's difficult because your body is already in this biological rhythm. If you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, your body releases ghrelin for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the exact moments that you normally eat. That's why you will notice that you are hungry even when you're doing intermittent fasting and you've been doing it for a while. You tend to be hungry at the moments where you're about to eat, and then you just stop being hungry after that. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you implement other protocols, just make sure that the feeding time is within the realm of the previous protocol before you switch to the new one. Now, let me explain that. If, for example, you have a 16-8 method and your 8 hours is from 1 to 9, so then make sure that if you, for example, decide to do the warrior diet one day, which is 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of eating, it's within that time frame, either 4 to 8 or 1 to 5, whatever it is. Just make sure that it's within that realm. As well as when you do one meal a day, just make sure it's within the realm of your feeding time, because you don't want to constantly throw off your ghrelin to want to eat at a specific time, and then now you're not eating at that specific time. That biological rhythm that you actually worked hard to build, it takes about 2 or 3 weeks of consistently doing your intermittent fasting protocol to get there. So don't rob yourself of that progress. You want to keep yourself in that range. Yes, you can switch the protocols up. You can expand the feeding window, but always try to keep the feeding window contained. So if you ever wanted to switch back to the 16-8, you're already in position to do that without having to worry that you're fasting less or more. And also, you are within your biological rhythm that you have created hormonally for yourself that allows you to eat during those times and then fast without feeling hungry afterwards. So I hope you understand how this is different from allowing yourself to utilize multiple regimens. It's an important factor to your adherence and sticking with the intermittent fasting protocol so that you don't fall off and then it's like super hard to get back on. So I hope this video has helped you guys, and as always, I'm gonna go ahead and put my patrons from my Patreon right up here. And of course, as always, guys, I'll see you on Sunday for another FAQ. Peace.